Welcome. Welcome to the Messenger Summit. Today I'd like to let you know that we're welcoming Gaill Blackburn. She's from Phoenix, Arizona. The talk today is Staying Centered in the Eye of the Storm. Her website is gaillblackburn.com. That's GAILBLACKBURN.com. So please join me in welcoming up to the stage, Gaill Blackburn. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, you guys might want to put your seatbelts on. I'm going to take you for a little bit of a roller coaster ride, which is known as my life. How many of you feel like you have the perfect life? Like when it rains, not a problem in the world, everything's going terrific. That used to be me. I had the perfect job, made great money, went to college, graduated. I always do things backwards. Had my man waiting for me in the wings, and got married in the Bahamas. Watched our house being built, our dream home, and then bam, all of a sudden, you get in one of those times in your life where the umbrella doesn't work and you just don't know what to do and you're just totally being reactive instead of proactive in your own life. Anybody have those kind of days? Yeah, that was mine. And it all started out when we decided to have a family. And I found out that it wasn't as easy as I thought. I always took for granted that you could just have a kid, no problem at all. But it didn't work out that way for us. So went into the world of infertility surgery and treatments, and didn't go on our first time, so it took a couple of times. The whole time I had a really rough time. I had to inject myself with blood thinners in my abdomen twice a day to help the baby and all that. So by the time I was done, I was like this giant purple calloused pincushion. I mean, it was awful. No Demi Moore looked for me, while I was pregnant. And I worked 60 hours a week up until the day I had her, and we just had so much to do at work. And I knew that she was breech. I knew I needed to go in for this external aversion thing they do where they kind of tweak her around. But I was just so busy that I just didn't want to make time for it. And so then at the last minute, they're like, if you don't come in, you're guaranteed a C-section. So I'm like, fine. So I went in, and that next day, I went in, and then they did an ultrasound and discovered that she had less than a teaspoonful of amniotic fluid left. So immediate C-section, they took her. And if we'd have waited one more day, we would have lost her. So that's when I learned about divine intervention. And it was all worth it. I have my beautiful baby girl. The whole time I was pregnant, I only gained 8 pounds. And don't worry about it because I had gained so much on infertility stuff that it just kind of shifted around. But the whole time I was saying, I wouldn't mind having a petite little girl. I just wouldn't mind having a petite little girl. And later on, I had no idea what life had to offer me at that point. But 3 months later, my daughter Brittany, we found out she had achondroplasia, which is a form of dwarfism. And so I got my little girl, my petite little girl. And then after that, we also found out at the same time that she has hydrocephalus, which is fluid on the brain, and she needed immediate brain surgery. So I can't even explain how you just have your newborn and you have to have them have brain surgery. It was so traumatic, I don't even know how I survived it at this point. But then that's when I learned about the power of prayer. And really, so many prayers just got us through that. And she is small, but she is a fighter. And she came out with flying colors, did terrific. And then we had a great year. And then a week shy of the year anniversary with her first shunt, we found out that she had not been shunted properly. And she had what's called slit ventricle syndrome, where no fluid had been in her brain for quite a long time. And so she has a whole new set of problems. So because of those complications, she ended up having 9 more surgeries on her brain within the next couple of years. So we were constantly in and out of the hospital trying to, and as you can see there, in typical Brittany style, she was telling everybody how to do their own job by the time we were done. And then fast forward to around today's time, and she's now 14. I think she was 13 at that picture. But she has had she's had 22 surgeries for just a whole plethora of problems. And I just have to tell you that she is my rock. She is the one that keeps me strong. And I don't know how God gave such resilience to such a sweet little girl, but he certainly did. And I am blessed beyond measure because of her. Although she is quite stubborn, because even after having surgery on her ankles, she refused to let us help her get out of the car. She's just like, nope, I can do it on my own. And so she did. And kind of correlates a little bit with, have you guys heard of the story of the butterfly? And I'll just go through it real quick, just the punchline. A man saw a butterfly in a cocoon, and he saw it struggling. So he put a slit in it to try to help it out and to help it. And what ended up happening is the butterfly just was all not good, and I can't think of the word, I'm sorry, and was never able to fly. And so what the moral of that story is that through our struggles is how we really thrive in life. And so it really makes me think of my daughter. And in junior high, she wanted nothing more than to be in sports. She really, really wanted to be in sports. So I didn't try to deter her by any means. And she did try out, and she didn't make it. So she was quite frustrated. But then in high school, she's now a freshman in high school this year. So in high school, she goes up to the basketball manager, a basketball coach, and says, I want to be the manager of your team. And he was so impressed with her, if you could slide, please. He was so impressed with her attitude and her enthusiasm that he really wanted to, he put her on not only the freshman team, can you put the slide, please? But the JV team and the varsity. So she's the manager of all three teams, where she proudly wears the number 1/2 and gives 200% to her teammates. And I know it's all a part of the master plan. Her difference is, I just love her so much, and I know that she was made that way for a reason, and part of that reason is to help us learn something. She's not here to learn from us. We're here to learn from her difference. And I just am blessed beyond measure. And then another part of the master plan for me is my husband, Brett. And he's actually not a one-timer, but a two-time recipient of a traumatic brain injury. And the first one he had was in the Army before I knew him. And it's funny because when I first met him, I really wasn't looking for anybody, and he kept bugging me to go out, and I'm like, oh, I don't know. And there was something about him that just was intriguing to me. And every time I thought I knew him, he would say or do something that was totally off in left field, and I'm like, that's crazy. So he kind of grew on me like a weed or something. I don't know. He'll love that. But anyway, it took me about a decade to realize that what I really fell in love with was his brain injury. I mean, I know it sounds crazy, but it works for us. And when Brittany was born, I did quit my job. I wanted to devote all my time to her, and my husband had gone through a couple of jobs, so we're like, you know what, we're going to start our own business. So we started up Daddy's Handyman Services, and he did all the labor, and I did all the business work, the accounting and all that while we were, and so it was perfect because I was home with Brittany. And you all know the saying, think before you speak. Well, I think there needs to be one, think before you think. And the reason I say that is because he started to have one on-the-job injury after another and just kept going. And every time I'd pick up the phone, it's like, you know, he'd call, he got hurt doing something else. And so I just manifested all that. I was just so in my head about everything that was going on with him. I knew that every time I answered the phone, that it was going to be him telling me that he had been hurt again. And I was literally obsessed with that. I just couldn't even focus on anything because I was so worried all the time, that something was going to happen. And he was actually a frequent flyer at urgent care. It's like they all knew his name, and I think they took bets on what his most bizarre injury was going to be coming in next. And it was like he had parking there. And what we didn't realize was his brain injury was trying to tell us something through all of this. We were just too busy to listen. And I was going on this downward spiral. I was just so worried all the time. I just couldn't really focus. I was like paralyzed with doubt and fear. I just didn't know which way to move and what was the answer for us. And at that point in my life, I really had little faith that things were going to get better for us. I just was so stuck in that. It's like a dominoes that thank you. They, once it starts out small and then it just magnifies. And then came the day where I got a phone call that changed our lives forever. And my husband had been putting up Christmas lights on this 2-story, and he fell and he hit his head on the half wall. And so I don't even know how I got to the job site. I just flew there. And by the time I got there, I knew that it was really bad because the helicopter had already been taking him away. And so I had to be responsible. I had to pick up all his tools and lock the truck, and I'll do all the stuff you have to do, and then I had to race 45 minutes to the hospital. And I remember sitting in the waiting room, and I was just like, how much more of this is going to go on in my life? It's just, what am I doing that's so wrong? What am I doing? And it's a brain injury is really one of the cruelest injuries, out there, because on the outside they look perfect. You would never know, but on the inside things can get quite jumbled. So it's can be very frustrating. But I am happy to tell you that he is now retired and he's loving it. So that's a good thing. And one thing, when all of this was going on in my life, we had this beautiful saguaro cactus that we bought when it was just had a couple of stubs on it. And it was like my pillar of strength. It was something, and I always said, if anything happens to that cactus too, that's just going to, I don't know what, that's just going to be the end of me. If something happens to that cactus, I don't know why I was fixated on that cactus. And in the picture, you can tell I was just looking out my front window, and the storm's going by and blowing the palms, and it's just my beacon of light. It was just amazing. And then everyone comes to a crossroads, and a year later was mine. And I couldn't believe that something so strong and so mighty had fallen down. And I remembered saying that, if something happens to that cactus, that's going to be the end of me. And I was like, really like, ooh, what now? And that's when I really started realizing the power of your words and what you put out there, and that you create your own reality. And I had also another saying that I always had was when people came over to our house and, are you guys ever going to move? Are you going to stay here? What are your plans? I'm like, we aren't going to move. We're going to die here. I'm like, we're going to die here? I'm thinking about this now. We're going to die here. Okay. So I had, after that, I'm like envisioning this big tombstone on us, rest in peace, Blackburn family. So we moved. We came. We had a perfect opportunity. And then we also had to figure out a plan B for our income, because our sole income was gone now. And we dabbled a little bit in real estate, and we all know how that went. And then I was talking to a really good friend of mine, Mark, and he was one of the smallest people I had ever met in my life, but he absolutely had the biggest personality. He's larger than life. And he had been through some severe problems like I had as well. In the same week that my husband took his nosedive off the 2-story, his wife was in a head-on car collision. And from that, she became a mini Christopher Reeves. She had severe injuries. And unfortunately, 5 months later, she passed away. And she passed away on my anniversary. I mean, it's just the timing of everything is incredible. And I know that, too, is a part of the master plan. God knew way ahead of time where our lives were destined to take us. And beforehand, I was really focused on money, money, money. I was just totally driven by money. But with everything that Mark and I both went through, we knew that there was a special plan for us. And we knew we just had this drive that we had to make a difference in the world. So we co-founded our nonprofit. It's called Motivational Small Talk. And we go do bully prevention, overcoming obstacles, stuff like that. We make quite the dynamic duo. He says that I'm the brains of the organization and he's the beauty, and I'm okay with that. So we're in this amazing uphill spiral that is just phenomenal. And I do have my perfect family. It may not look perfect to people on the outside, but it's absolutely perfect for me, and it's totally the way that God has planned for my life to become, and I wouldn't be the person I am had I not gone through all those struggles. And for me, what I've found is the key is to be of service to other people. That's how you really grow yourself. And it's like the dominoes, they're setting themselves up now, and I intend to, with living consciously, to keep them that way. And I was just going to go through real quick some of the lessons I've learned. There's always going to be challenges in life. Is the glass half empty or half full? If I was a half empty kind of gal, I wouldn't be standing here today. And bitter and better, there are two words that are exactly alike except for one letter, but there's a world apart. I mean, you can go through your life being bitter for what has happened in your life, or you can become better and use all the struggles to help you be better and help other people as well. And you just need to shift your thinking and be more positive. Think of Nelson Mandela. He's 27 years in prison, yet that was in his cell is where he made the best progress. So I like to think of that. And laughter. Laughter has been a huge thing. I love him. Laughter has been a huge thing for me because without it, I don't think I would have survived. I mean, you either cry or you laugh. And I'm going to cry. I'm going to laugh. Sorry. I'm going to cry laughing. There you go. So anyway, I'm currently working on a book right now, and it's kind of a mix between a Chicken Soup for the Wounded Soul meets Laugh-In. And I have millions of stories about how I'm going to call it God's sense of humor. And I have millions of stories about how if you look at the good side, that great things can come out of your life. So another thing to do is to stay grounded, to get back to nature or try to listen to your soul and stay present in the moment. And, the statistics show that the stress comes from worrying about the past, which we can see that I did when I was so focused on the past that I got more of the same thing. And worrying about the future, you shouldn't do that. So, and then also what I've really tried to do is look at each situation am I in. Am I acting as a victim? Am I acting as a survivor? Or am I really embracing it and taking it on as a thriver? And I choose to thrive through this. So I really thank you guys for having me here today. And the Messenger Summit rocks. And thank you very much.